Okay, Tony Mormino, AHR Expo in Orlando 2025 at the Chemours booth with my good friend, Don Gillis, who I just met in person for the first time. Don,
Yeah,
great to
excellent.
see you,
Good
man.
to see you, Tony.
Love it. How are you liking the show so far?
It's busy. We've been busy. It's a popular topic, as you know, right now.
Yeah,
A2Ls, and we got a good location by the front door here, and so yeah, it's been busy.
excellent. Well, we appreciate all your help with
Yeah,
getting the word out on A2L
yeah.
refrigerants, and Chemours is the manufacturer of 454B, among other refrigerants, which is a A2L, common A2L replacement for R-410A, which we use a lot in our industry, package rooftop units, etc. So you've been nice enough to come on our podcast and YouTube channel several times. While I'm here, I'm so glad I get to meet you in person. This is so nice. I
Same.
just love these online tools today because we get to build these relationships online, and you meet in person, it feels like you know each other.
I said the same thing this morning when I saw you. And I thought about this morning. I've never personally met you, but I feel like I know you.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
great. I
yeah,
love it. I love it. So I thought we'd talk real quick.
yeah,
What is an A2L, specifically the flammability part of it,
yeah.
the lower flammability classification. Then we got a tank here, and you can go over the differences in the new tank. This sound
Yeah,
good?
yeah, sounds great.
Great.
Yeah. So let's start with the A2L stuff. That first letter is the toxicity, and A is classified as a non-toxic.
Mhm.
B would be toxic, and that would be an example would be ammonia. Okay, and then we get after the letter, we get into the flammability part of it. And so for years it was a one non-flammable, a two a flammable, and then a three a highly flammable. So this new kid on the block, if you will, the flame was so close to what we were already using, they literally had to make a new classification.
Mm.
And for those of you that don't know, you'll hear it say mildly flammable. If you get in the weeds, someone might say low flame propagation. But after you peel the onion back, what the L really stands for is the velocity at which it travels, the speed at which it travels.
Gotcha.
So if it's slower than 10 centimeters per second, it's plus it's on that side of the screen, two L's and one. If it's higher than 10 centimeters per second, then it's a two or a three. In the case of 454B, it's like 5.2. So it's not even close to the 10 centimeters, but it has to do with the velocity at the speed at which it travels, the flame front, if you will. So,
Gotcha.
yeah,
And you've got a great video on your YouTube channel which shows the intensity of the spark that's needed to actually
yeah,
ignite the refrigerant. It's
yeah,
very There's my takeaway, the Tony Mormino takeaway
yeah,
from watching that video is it's really hard to ignite.
yeah,
It's really hard to keep it ignited.
yeah,
And if it does get ignited, it moves real slow,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
it's not like when I hear flammability, in my mind, I originally thought like a propane. Like you turn on a propane valve and you hit it, and we all
yeah,
know what that does. But
yeah.
the flammability level we're talking here is nothing like that.
Nothing at all.
Yeah.
And I break it down to what's in the 454B, for example. We'll use that one as an example, or
Mhm.
32, a single component. It's, for 454B, it's still 32. They bumped it up. They circled back around with that 1234F that's which in underneath the hood of your cars. So
Right.
really what they did, Tony, a lot of people don't understand this is the way I teach it in classes. The EPA is driving this. So 410A was 50% R32, as we've talked about before in the past. The other one's R125, and R125 is found in most all fire extinguishers. So the way it works is when it's exposed to air, it sucks the oxygen out. Without oxygen, you don't have flame. So it was the fire extinguisher,
Ah,
if you will.
okay.
So we removed that, and that's all we were doing. But we went from 2088 GWP, which is the reason we're having this conversation, down to
Right.
466 by removing that harsher chemical that was just making it non-flammable.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's really so it doesn't change a lot at
Right.
all. So yeah, and when I bring that up to him, but the point I was trying to make is I always point out to him, you don't see propane there.
Right.
So
Right.
flammable is not flammable is not flammable. I don't
Right.
it's tough when people put it all in one bucket.
Right.
Like
Right.
flammable refrigerants.
Right. Not all flammabilities are
Yeah,
created
exactly.
equal,
There you go.
if you would say so.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, I think it was 1234YF.
Yes.
Now that is commonly used in automobile air conditioning,
Correct.
and it's been used for a long time in
About
automobiles.
8 years or so.
And that's an A2L.
Correct. Yeah.
So I always tell, if I talk to an owner or someone who might be concerned, I say, hey, do you got a car that's relatively new? It's got an A2L refrigerant. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So it
Yeah.
takes a little of the pressure off of the
Yeah.
newness on it, I think.
Yeah. No, I say the same thing. That's why I work from the top at the beginning. There's like first 5 slides of my training is always removing, for lack of better definition, the fear mongering.
Yeah,
It's all
yeah,
around you.
yeah.
A lot of the stuff we buy, P-Tech units, window units, dehumidifiers, A lot of that comes from Asia, and they've been using R32 for a long time. So you just don't know it's around you.
Right.
The hood of your car has been there for every car made and sold in the United States, and most of the world has 1234F, and that's a Chemours product, and
Yeah.
that's an HFO molecule. Therefore, it becomes an HFO blend. So yeah, that's the science behind it. That's the secret sauce.
And I'm glad I'm having this discussion because I've been calling it 1234YF, which makes me look like a
Yeah.
total rookie.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
1234YF, I'm sure, is the way that I
Yeah.
should be saying it. So that's good to know. And the other thing you pointed out is the A2Ls are nothing new. They've been around for a while. They're kind of new to the States, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
It's new to us. It's not new. Asia and Europe, they're all ahead of us.
Yeah.
We're kind of behind. We're further advanced than Canada is, but yeah, they're new to the U.S. But like we talked about, window units, PTEC units, 6, 7 years. Daikin's, had that 32 for a long time.
Been around a while.
Got away from 410A, so it's around us. We just don't know it sometimes. We don't talk about it. It wasn't until we went into the residential or light commercial
Right.
industry that everybody started more contractors.
Right.
Like, wow, this is going to be, different or whatever, but on a smaller charge. But yeah, it's a 1230YF in a small charge can be a standalone refrigerant, but it's in a lot of blends. It's been out there for a long time.
Yeah.
448, 449, it's part of that blend too. So yeah, I honestly, I've told lots of people before in the past, honestly, Tony, and I'm not just saying this, I feel that this transition from 410A to A2L refrigerants is going to be smoother than it was to 22 to 410A.
Right.
And
Because of the pressure difference.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
We were scared to death. A guy come in, put a screen up, got this new refrigerant, 410A. We're going to take a test afterwards. It's not affiliated with the EPA, but we want to educate you. Blah, blah, blah. We walked out that parking lot that day and said, I'm not putting that crap in my truck.
Because of the pressure.
Yes.
Got it.
It was time. We didn't see that before. I mean, can you
Right.
imagine 400 some pounds? That was a lot.
Right.
So we've already established that. And this is a little
And this
lower.
is about the same, close to the same pressure.
A little lower, but
Little
yeah,
lower.
almost identical.
Got
So
it.
if you're seeing 390, let's say, on the high side of 410A, you're going to see about 10, 12 pounds less on this side, depending on the conditions
Nice.
outside.
Right.
Yeah.
So before we move on to the tank, one last thing. So if somebody wants to learn more about the A2L, the A2L is an ASHRAE classification, ASHRAE 34.
Yes, correct.
So it's not an industry thing. It's not a Chemours thing. It's an ASHRAE
Correct.
thing. So it's not product specific is what I'm trying to say.
Correct.
So someone could Google ASHRAE 34 and look it up, and you can find the actual chart where it shows
Yes.
A2L,
Yeah, that's a great
B1,
point.
et cetera.
Yeah, and it's done by a third party that sends it to ASHRAE. So
Okay,
it's a
got
testing
it.
facility. ASTM does the
Got
testing,
it.
and they test a lot of flammable stuff. They send it to ASHRAE, and then ASHRAE says basically it's either not flammable or it is flammable, and if it is flammable, how flammable is it? So
Right.
that's where they get the classification.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So that's great info. And I saw you do an excellent video, I think last year, on
Okay.
the new
tanks.
tanks.
Yeah.
So I think there's a couple things we need to be
Yeah.
aware of when you get a tank of A2L refrigerant, correct?
Yeah. So obviously you're going to see this change here with the red stripe identifying any A2L refrigerants. That's required. You're going to have a red stripe there to identify an A2L. You're also going to see left-handed threads on here. So you have to have a little device, and a lot of the tool manufacturers are coming out with a lot fancier ones, for lack of a better description. But it's basically things we've used in the auto industry, propane and different things like that. You're going to put that on there, and then you're going to move over to your right-handed tools
Mm-hmm.
and go from there. So it really, to me, still having an older son, still running his own business in the industry, it's a safety net. If
Right.
somebody comes out and it's their first day on the job and they don't know,
Right.
they go with their hoses. Hey, I don't want to sound like an idiot, but I can't. If you see the red stripe and you can't get your hoses on there, something's different here. But
That's right.
yeah, and then also on the back side of it, getting into the safety part of it, is we're going to go with a spring-loaded pressure relief, if you will, instead of a rupture disc. And the way rupture disc works before, if you get into a certain pressure temperature, depending on the refrigerant, that's going to be different because the saturation point, that would explode or blow it, and would blow the whole charge.
Right.
This was not mandatory, by the way. This was just something as an industry they decided to go an extra step.
Nice.
And basically the way this is, like we know, spring valves, it's just going to burp, if you
Yeah.
will, and then shut back down, leaving a suspended. So it's just really more, again, a peace of mind As
so you don't
well.
lose the whole charge in your van
Exactly.
or your
Yeah,
basement
yeah,
or wherever
yeah,
it is.
yeah. So they
But
just
it's extremely rare. I think I watched you on a video once. You said you've asked classes for X amount of years if they've ever had a rupture disc burst, and you don't think you've ever even. Has anyone ever had that happen?
yes,
Oh, it
but
has
not
happened. Okay.
that. But with all the people that I in front of and everyone else is in front of, here's what I know: 3 people. They were all 3 older than I was.
Mhm.
One was from Florida, one was from Alabama, and one was from Arizona. And it only happened once to them.
Got it. Extremely rare.
Yeah. So there may be some folks out there that have a different story,
Yeah.
but in Ohio it doesn't happen. I know that.
Okay.
Ohio and Indiana, where I'm licensed at, it doesn't happen.
Okay. Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah,
So I thought of one last thing before we
yeah,
go, and thank you so much for your time. This
yeah,
is great info. We get a question all the time. Hey, can I just drop this refrigerant,
yeah,
drop it into a 410A machine? And I think I love the safety features here from a safety standpoint,
yeah,
but I'm always worried about the tech who puts this into a machine that's
yeah,
not UL rated for it.
yeah.
It's a big deal.
It was a huge deal. Yeah.
Right.
And you know as well as I do, after I do the first part of my training, I'm saying, hey, there's nothing to fear. It looks just like what we were using.
Yeah.
Then I got to turn around at the end of the training and go, don't do this. And there's a couple
Correct.
reasons. This will only go into A2L, UL listed refrigerant equipment, right?
Correct.
Because of the safety features, pardon me. And then also, even though the pressures are that close, that throws the capacity off a lot.
Yeah.
So those TXVs are designed, as we know, for that identical refrigerant, that pressure drop
Right.
also. So when you change this, then the other thing is if you happen to have 410A in there, what are you leaving behind you? Because now we do everything by PT charts, which has got to do with the saturation. If you blend them even slightly to go, how do you know what your superheater or subcoolant is? You know what I mean?
Right.
And if none of that happens, and let's say you have a perfectly clean option, what is the guy behind me coming in and seeing? It's not on the data plate. He doesn't know. You know what I mean? And it's just a bad idea.
It's a bad idea.
Will it probably happen? Maybe, but
Yeah.
hopefully not. So all the identifiers are there. So if you've got training, and we highly encourage training like you do, you should know. And I think I tell you, from my training experience, being here has been very well accepted. I've had not any bad experience with anybody saying they weren't going to do it or whatever. So it's been a
Right.
great experience.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent information as usual. Thank you very
Tony.
much, Don.
My pleasure.
What a
Thanks
great
for stopping
resource.
by.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
And if you want to learn more on all of the refrigerants you guys make, especially A2Ls, they've got a great website, tons of literature on there. Go check it out. And thanks again, Don. We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
my pleasure, buddy.
Thank you.
Good seeing you.
Too.